Good day, South Africa. I want to provide a quick update on my recent podcast. During my January 13th podcast, I discussed how Eskom had been rendered dysfunctional through a deliberate tactic to quietly remove 20,000 megawatts from the national power grid. I played a video of Gwede Mantashe addressing the Energy and Mining Investment Conference in Limpopo. He tells the audience that Eskom currently has 20,000 megawatts spare capacity. Speaking at the ANC's 55th National Conference, Mantashe again repeated those same statements, claiming that Eskom has 22,000 megawatts of available capacity and is not decommissioned. Kyle Cowan, the Reuters paid publicist, was quick to rubbish Mantashe's claims, attempting to dismiss that such capacity, in fact, exists. However, by now, we have exposed Mr. Cowan for the fraud that he is, and there is no need to delve further into these allegations. However, in a recent interview with Newsroom Africa, Chief Executive Officer Dr. Matas of the South African National Energy Development Institute echoed Mr. Mantashe's claims that Eskom has the capacity to bring an end to load shedding. Mata blames the lack of sustainable maintenance for Andre de Ruyter's failure to bring an end to load shedding. According to Dr. Mata, Eskom has a dispatchable capacity of 29,200 megawatts. Last year its highest peak demand was recorded at 31,800 megawatts on June 2. For the rest of the year, the peak demand ranged between 23,000 and 26,000 megawatts. According to Mata, the electricity system in South Africa, therefore, has enough installed capacity to cater for demand, operating reserves and maintenance, that is, both planned and unplanned outages. That begs the big question. From a technical point of view, what led to such frequent load shedding last year? According to Mata, it is common knowledge that, in operating an old fleet, maintenance is typically higher than when operating a relatively new fleet of assets. It is puzzling that Eskom got this wrong. Furthermore, it would appear that the maintenance's effectiveness is not great, Mata said. As a result of that inadequate plant maintenance, generation is also now incurring a daily average of about 5,000 to 7,000 megawatts of partial load losses. In an upcoming podcast, the Russell Report will expose Andre de Ruyter's strategy over the last 3 years to run Eskom into the ground and plunge South Africa into darkness. If you have not done so yet, please subscribe to this channel for regular podcasts and updates on the South African energy crisis.
The CEO of the South African National Energy Development Institute, Dr. Zwanani Mathe, has attributed the sudden increase in load shedding to the lack of sustainable maintenance at Eskom's power plants. Mathe says if the issue of the national grid stability is not taken seriously, then perhaps it is time to start planning for the worst case scenario, and that's a complete blackout. Dr. Mathe joining me in studio now to discuss the measures and interventions that could be pursued to improve energy availability in the country. Dr. Mathe, thank you very much for your time. I want to start off with what is contained in that article that you wrote. And key among them, you say that Eskom has enough installed capacity, and that is to cater for demand, the operating reserves, included in there the issue of maintenance, planned or unplanned. Explain that to an ordinary South African like me, who does not know when you say there is enough installed capacity to cater for all of these needs I've stated about.
So let's start from the top. We currently have about 55 gigawatts of installed capacity. In this 55 gigawatt. It includes the so-called renewable energy, which is about 6 gigawatts or so. So if you were to take the 55 gigawatts, remove the renewable energy, because sometimes it's available, sometimes it's not available, you end up with 49 gigawatts of installed capacity.
Right.
Of that 49, you need to take out, let's say, 3,000 or 4,000 to cater for reserves. In case of an emergency, the system is able to respond to that. So that takes you to about 44, 45 gigawatts of installed capacity. So out of that, on a normal day, typically the demand goes up to sometimes 28 gigawatts or sometimes 30 gigawatts. Let's assume it's 30 gigawatts. That gives you the balance of about, let's call it 15 gigawatts.
Yeah.
This 15 gigawatts of installed capacity, as I said in my article, it's enough to cater for planned maintenance, it's enough to cater for unplanned maintenance, and maybe, unit tripping there and there, but we've got enough installed capacity to arrest the current challenges that we are faced with.
Let me then ask the question. The Minister of Energy, Gwede Mantashe, has been talking about 22 megawatts that is sitting idle that could be put to good use to avoid where we are. Do you have a clear understanding when he says this 22,000 megawatts is sitting idle? What is he referring to exactly?
Yeah, so we may be using different numbers. I estimated about 15 gigawatts. Let's assume the 22 gigawatts is correct. By the way, it's not idle. It's units that have broken down or units that are on planned maintenance that needs to be maintained so that they are returned back to generate electricity. But the argument remains the same. We've got enough installed capacity if we just do maintenance. Even if we do load shedding for a limited period and do proper maintenance with proper oversight, I believe that in the next 6 to 12 months we'll be out of the woods.
Let's then talk about what has contributed to the sudden increase in plant breakdowns.
Yeah, it is true that the Eskom fleet is old. So the plants are breaking down, but there are other contributing factors. The maintenance, I believe, that has been done probably in the last 3 to 4 years or so, I don't think it's been effective. Otherwise, you'll not have the same units coming back from a long maintenance and breaking down again. So the effectiveness of maintenance, as much as some maintenance has happened, I just want to be open about that. It's not that there's no maintenance. Maintenance has happened, but the effectiveness of the maintenance that has happened, I think part of it is contributing to the situation that we're faced with.
What you are saying, if we were to get into semantics now, you're talking about maintenance that's not been effective. Are you saying that poor quality maintenance is what this Eskom team has been doing, at least for the last couple of years since Under-Director took over? Are you saying that the maintenance that they have been doing has been substandard? Under-Director and team, as I've said earlier, they have sold the story to South Africans that maintenance is what was neglected by the team that he took over from. And you remember the whole story about how these plants were run to the ground simply because the previous team was told that you run these things, otherwise you'll be shown the door, in order to make the nation believe that the story of load shedding really didn't exist, or it was something that was brought on deliberately. Are you saying that this team, led by Under-Director, when they have been speaking about not just normal maintenance, we have heard a new term, and that is reliable maintenance, or reliability maintenance, rather. Are you saying that, again, you insist on this word that the maintenance at Eskom has been ineffective?
Koli, I'm still sticking with that. The maintenance at Eskom has been ineffective. In my article, I go into detail analyzing what happened when, by the way, the problem started many years ago. It's not just a recent issue. Around 2013 or so, you could see, if you look at the numbers, that something is wrong here. There was a response, as I indicated, around 2016, 2017, but that response of doing more maintenance than just running the plant should have been retained or sustained beyond the 2016-2017 period. Unfortunately, this did not happen. The maintenance intensity measured in terms of plant, the so-called PCLF, planned maintenance, was not sustained. And that should have been sustained. And I deliberately went into this because there are other reasons, by the way, why the plant is not performing. The criminal activities, the corruption and whatever. But put that aside. Let's look at the technical reasons now why the plant has not performed. And it boils down to maintenance. Effective maintenance has not happened.
If that effective maintenance had been carried out, would we be where we are right now?
I don't think so, sorry. I really don't believe we will be in this situation where we're at the moment.